Hey, I'm Tommy Chong. Welcome to High on Homegrown.
Yes, everybody, and welcome to High on Homegrown, the cannabis podcast from Percy'sGrowroom.com. This is Grow Guides episode 40, where we talk all about auto-flowering cannabis plants. Now, autos have come a long way since they first came out, and they are really good plants to grow and very easy for beginner growers as well. So we wanted to run through everything you need to know about growing auto-flowering cannabis plants and try and encourage some people to try it out if they haven't done it before. But anyway, all that is explained throughout the episode. I hope you enjoy this episode. It would be great if you could head over to youtube.com/highonhomegrown and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done that before. And it would be even better if you could head over to percysgrowroom.com/forum and sign up there to become a member as well. It's absolutely free. Everybody is welcome. Come and join us and show off some of your grows. And if you don't grow yet and you want to learn how to, then come over there and we'll be able to help you out with learning how to grow as well. Anyway, for now, here is the episode. I'll speak to you at the end of this. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn some things. See you in a bit. So this week, we're talking all about auto-flowering cannabis plants. We're going to explain what the fuck they are, why we think they're good or don't think they're good, depending on, because people think different things. Some people really don't like autos and some people only grow autos. So it depends from grower to grower. But I personally, I like autos. They're part of the grow when I do grow, do photo periods and auto flowers at the same time. But it's not like I just grow autos alone. But you just grow autos, right, Marge? That's your kind of thing.
No, I do photos too.
Cool.
It just depends. I have done autos in the summertime outside.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of seasons because I like them better for the outdoor, just because my season is sometimes short and unpredictable. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you, TJ, you do both too as well, right?
Yep. Exactly like Marge just said. Here in Saskatchewan, our summers are short and sweet, and so generally you don't have enough time to finish photos. So autos are the way to go. I can usually, if I time it right, get a set of do 4 harvest and then another 4 and then harvest in the short period if you use the right autos. But indoors, I do run them on occasion. Not for a few years now, actually. I haven't done any, but I have some nice ones that I do need to make some seeds from. But yeah, I just I like yeah. Well, we'll talk about why pros and cons, but yeah, I do both. I'll say that. So
you say, Monkey, you do both too as well, right?
Yeah, I do grow more photos, but I'm running about 3 runs a year now. I'm not really trying to push any more than that. I can comfortably fit that in, and it produces everything that I need. So out of those 3 runs a year, one of them will be an auto run. I don't like to mix. I like to actually, I'm growing one or the other. I don't like to have them mixed in each other, although I have done that and it does work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And these autos, they're good for perpetual growing. And we spoke about them in the perpetual growing episode as well, because I would grow 4 photo period plants and 4 auto flowering plants.
Right.
So 8 plants, and then you keep it on 18.6.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to know more about that shit, then go and check out the what is it called again? That word, the type of grow it is.
Perpetual.
Perpetual. That's it. I was thinking of a game with an R. Yeah, the perpetual.
I thought we had a fancy word there. I was looking for.
Yeah.
A scientific term. We don't do that here. But yeah, so autos are good for many reasons. They do many. They have some differences from the photo periods. Anyway, so we'll briefly explain what a photo period plant is versus an auto. Right. So, Monkey, do you want to explain what a photo period cannabis plant is?
Sure. A photo period cannabis plant, when you seed germinates, you usually are growing that seed under about 18 hours of light. Generally like that though. But a photo period plant will stay growing in vegetative state as long as it has at least, generally they're saying like 12, 13 hours of light will keep that plant anything above that, above 12 or 13 hours light, the plant will continue to grow in vegetative state forever, pretty much.
And
It will
most
never
growers
bloom.
will most growers will use 18 hours of light and 6 hours of darkness. The standard
Right.
18/6.
Right.
So-
Once that hours start dropping down below that 13 or below that 12 timeframe in there, and each strain is going to be slightly different of where it triggers, though, that's when your plant will start flowering. And once it starts flowering, no matter what happens, hey, you're going to have flowers at this point. You know, you can re-veg it by re-exposing it to longer light and things like that. But the natural cycle would be you veg it out as long as you want, and then you change the light cycle, or in nature, the light cycle changes itself. The plant flowers, it finishes, and you're done. That's pretty much a photo period.
Sorry, so Marge, do you want to tell us what an auto is? How an auto differs from a photo period plant?
Well, in my estimation, it just does its own thing. You don't have to worry about the light cycles or anything like that. It'll just start to flower on its own. Whereas photos, you have to change the light cycle, as far as I understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. For a photo period plant, you have to put it on 12/12 for it to go into the flowering stage where it starts to grow the buds. But auto flowering plants will flower themselves under any light cycle. That could be 18/6 or a full 24 hours a day, just lights on constantly, and the plant will still flower. You don't need to put it on 12/12. And that's why they call it auto, because it flowers automatically.
But there's a lot of, with that automatic stuff right there, that also kind of gives you a little bit of a challenge right there, because now you've got a very limited amount of time to get everything done that you want to get done before the plant starts flowering, and get enough canopy, get enough training done. In an autoflower, it's a great plant, but it's not going to wait for you.
And on average, it takes about between 10 and 12 weeks for an auto flowering plant to go from seed to harvest.
Right.
10 to 12 weeks.
And usually that autoflower is going to flip from vegetative state to auto somewhere between that 4 to 6 week time frame. And there is when you're going to. So if you're not done and it wants to start flowering, it's not going to tell you, and it's not going to wait for you. It's going to just go.
So TG, you know about all plant breeding and chemistry and all that shit. Do you want to explain why autos differ from photo period plants and how the whole process came along?
Well, I'm no botanist. I leave that up to Dr. Ethan Russo, who's written extensively on this topic, actually. To my estimation and reading knowledge, it was cannabis, started in northwestern China and moved around as plants do through various means, animals or humans in cannabis's case. They eventually made their way up north into the like Siberia, Russia region. And, because plants are very good at selecting, themselves, they don't need human intervention really to select the strongest. There was, I'm assuming, a mutation that happened, assuming that they did start out all photo period, kind of like most plants are. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because I don't know actually if most plants are technically autoflower or they get induced by the seasons. Probably it's a combination of both. But anyway, they moved up north, and since the days up there are not nearly as long as they are where it originated and further south, and there's that short period, it's basically the same as here. They had a limited amount of time to be able to grow and reproduce and produce viable seeds in order to do what all organisms want to do, procreate and survive, right? So this evolutionary trait was beneficial to these plants, and so up there it proliferated essentially. And in the northern regions, you got this auto-flowering version, which was not dependent on the sun going, the seasons changing and the sun getting less, giving you less daylight and signaling to plants that the winter was coming, and therefore you need to start producing seeds or fruit or whatever it might be. And so it was an evolutionary advantage. And so 1920s, I guess it was named, I forget, it was a Russian guy. And then I called it ruderalis because it's like a ruderal plant. It's a very small, short stature, low cannabinoid plant. So a lot was given up, it seems, to become autoflowering, but it's there, and it's been since interbred into other stuff now.
So when they first came out, when autos first came out, I don't know if you remember it. I don't know how long you've been growing them, but I was like, early in, man. They was only around for a couple of years.
Yeah, early
Is
on.
that what
the
you meant?
lowrider, yeah.
Like the origins, or just the origins of modern autoflowers? What was the
No, I think you did just
You
you did
good.
just fine, man. Like explaining the ruderalis
okay.
part of the genetics, because when the ruderalis was bred in with the photoperiod plants, then the autoflowering gene was slowly bred into the photoperiod,
Yeah, okay.
and that's why they flower automatically. It's just a singular gene, because like TG said, when it's the ruderalis, it's just a small plant, doesn't produce a lot of cannabinoids, but it had that one special trait, that auto-flowering trait, and because it's a version of cannabis like indica, sativa, ruderalis, they're different types of cannabis, and hemp, all these different types of cannabis. Ruderalis is just another one, so you can breed that with cannabis plants of different varieties like the photoperids, the indicas, or sativas.
Yeah.
And with selective breeding, you can pick out the auto-flowering gene and have it carried on through the photoperiod plants.
I was just going to reference like tomatoes. In tomatoes, when you grow tomatoes, there's two different kinds, determinate and indeterminate, they call them. Determinate varieties will grow to a certain point and then start flowering. Monkey would probably know more about this as the flower / horticulturalist, maybe more than I am. But then the indeterminate ones will grow and grow and grow and flower as they do, and produce fruit, but they'll just keep fucking growing until you don't let them, which essentially it's kind of like a photoperiod does in veg, right? It just grows until it doesn't, until you flip. But yeah, it's like kind of like that, I guess.
Is Monkey saying anything? Is he?
Nope, I'm right here listening
cool.
to DJ. He did a good job. He did.
I don't know. Yeah, if that was right. That's the example I always use, is because tomatoes are somewhat similar, not really, but
yeah.
Most of the ones we grow nowadays are determinate varieties. Some of the old heirloom ones, or the old vining heirlooms, the ones you're talking about, the old indeterminate varieties that would eventually usually just freeze to death or something like that.
Right.
Or insects eventually will get to them or something like that. Is one of those kind. But
yeah, so with these autos, with these autos, it's for people who've been growing for a long time. When autos first came out, they were fucking shit, and it was very difficult to get a decent strain. I remember growing some. I can't remember. It was a grape, sour crinkled grape. I don't know if that was right, because that might have been the Mephisto autos, and they were badass.
Yeah, that's a Mephisto cut.
Right,
sure.
right. It was I can't remember. It was a grape strain, but it grew terribly. It was so they grew. This was in DWC, and I had 4 of them, and they were fucking massive. They were huge plants, but the buds in them were very small and sparse, and it was like, god damn, that was a really shit grow. It was so bad. I still remember it now, and it's like 12 years ago or something. It was a long time ago, man. It was bad. But
autos are funny.
They can be, but it's over the last 10 years or so, they've been fixed up, man. A lot of good producers have done good work on them, and they can produce some banging plants.
I attribute a lot of the good work to Joint Doctor. He's a creator of Lowrider. And,
right.
Lowrider's been used in a ton of stuff.
Because that was like one of the first strains that were crossed with the ruderalis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the story, as far as I know, is it's a Mexican. They call it Mexican Rudy. It was a Mexican version of the ruderalis that was this auto-flowering thing that would just start flowering, and then they were just amazed by this, and they crossed it with some other stuff, and ended up getting this lowrider, and then kind of the rest is history. He has a really good description on his website, if you just Google Joint Doctor. But yeah, but then there's like other origins too. The equatorials are kind of auto-flowering themselves, because there is no
because it's constantly 12 there.
Yeah, the plant I grew outside here, like in my backyard, I would classify it as a semi-auto, because it was like it grew for fucking 3 months and then started, or 2.5 months, and started flowering, which in my experience, autos, like you guys said, are 4 to 6 weeks, and then that's it. I have other autos that I've made, copies of Mephisto's Double Grape, and they did exactly that. That's what I didn't know what to expect, but it's just the strangest thing.
Yeah, sometimes you just throw these phenotypes, can't they? And they just be different, man.
A little bit longer, or super autos, sometimes people call them, but generally, yeah.
Well, autos are good plants now. They used to be shit. And any people out there who have been growing for a long time tried autos and were like, oh goddamn, that was dire. I'm not doing that again. It's time to try them again, man, because they really are fucking good plants if you grow them properly. And
Well, and that's just it, though. If you grow them properly, and I see a lot of it over at Percy's and a lot of other places, though, that people try autos and they end up with these little tiny plants. And I think that's the trick with autos. You have to do. You really have to get on it and have to get them moving fast early.
And you got to keep them happy for the whole time. If they have problems, it's not going to like you have problems in the 3rd or 4th week, so there's not much vegetative growth there. It's not going to like grow for an extra week longer because it had a week off. That's part of its life cycle. So that whole middle week where you would have got a lot of vegetative growth, if there's too much stress at that point and the veg growth don't happen, then it don't have a lot of branches and places for it to grow the flowers on. So to keep it happy for the whole growth cycle is key to growing autos.
Yeah, those first 4 weeks to get that rhizosphere developed in a good enough structure above ground, so that when it switches gears, it's got everything it needs to explode. And so like Mackie says, keep it happy, happy, happy.
So just a few pros and cons we should cover with autos as well, because it's not all good and it's not all bad. There is different aspects that you need to look into before you decide if you're going to grow autos. But TG brought a good one up earlier where planting it outdoors. If you plant an auto flowering plant outdoors, then it's gonna be the same things, like 3 to 4 month life cycle, and then it gets chopped down. But if you plant an auto flower, a photo period plant outside, especially in the northern hemisphere where the days are long throughout spring and summer, then you can have the plant vegging for 20 weeks before it starts to flower. So this is something that you need to be careful of. If you don't want to grow a big beast and only harvest at the end of October, for example, then auto flowers, you can get 2 harvests in throughout the summer period. And you've done that before, ain't you, TG? Got 2 harvests out over summer.
Yeah. Yeah, if you time it, like, you got to start them indoors, really. And then as soon, like, let me think about it. I'll just take 77 to 80 days on average. So yeah, if you time it right and start them indoors, move them out when it's nice, let them finish about mid to end June, have some more kind of started within prior to a week of harvesting maybe, and then have those go till the end of the summer.
What do you do when you grow them outside, Marge?
Sometimes I often do start them indoors first, depending. I feel like this June was really cold, so I don't think I did it this year. So my outdoor grow was honestly kind of shit. That's a whole other story, but I do start them indoors a lot of the times too, just because it is short, and then take them outside when the threat of frost has finally over, because that's usually what people are having to worry about here. If you put them out too early, you could get frost, and then they're dead anyway. So yeah.
Another one, another good pro, which is always a good one, is it's less likely to get Hermes if you got light leaks in your tent, in your grow room. If you get light leaks during the night cycle when you're growing photo period plants, it can confuse the plant and it will grow male and female parts. But because auto flowering plants can grow on any light cycle, on 18/6, 20 hours on and 4 hours off for the lights, or a full 24 hours. And most strains, if the genetics are good, will still flower after 4 to 6 weeks. They'll just begin flowering themselves. You don't have to change the light cycle. And if there's light leaks, it's not going to cause a big problem.
You know what I think is more important than the potential to Hermy? It's like, some photos won't, but Hermes are bad in the sense where you can get unwanted seeds, especially if it's like a full-blown, like half male, half female, where it's fucking really jizzing everywhere. But
jizzing all over itself.
The worst one, and the one that fucks your yield up even worse, and is the thing that I hate the most when I fuck up and have a light leak isn't the potential Hermes, it's the re-veg. Re-vegging will reverse the fucking plant. It will stop producing terpenes, cannabinoids. It will grow new fucking foliage. When it finally reverts back to flowering after you're like, oh fuck, I hope that didn't do anything, It'll take a long time. It extends it to grow. It totally degrades the quality of your flower. And it's just a fucking bitch, you know?
Mhm.
What autos will not do is re-veg. And that's amazing because, like I said, re-vegging, I've lost ruined fucking crops. You know, I'd rather have Hermes that seeded the shit because at least I'd still get nice big buds, but a few seeds.
And these are
versus
some of
fucking-
the cons as well here. I mean, a good
Yeah.
thing is it won't re-veg, but sometimes if you get a really good strain, a photo period strain, for example,
Good
and
point.
you've done the flowering period, taken off the buds, and you want to re-veg it to keep those the genetics alive, then you just put it back on 18.6. After a few weeks, the plant's going to grow again. But if it's an auto, it's done. Right? It has that life cycle, and once it's over, it's over. You can't re-veg it and bring it back to life.
From a breeder or preservational perspective, yeah, autos are dog shit because there's really, you know, ultimately you have to taste a strain before you know if it's really good or not. And like Mackie just said there, can't clone them. The seeds, if you get even the same seeds that are so stable, blah, 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 you know, give me a break. Each seed is going to be slightly different, just like every brother is slightly different than or sibling is slightly different than a sibling, right? So yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah,
Then you have to
no
do
cloning
time
as well.
too.
You brought up briefly there, because you can't put it back on 18.6. If you take a piece off and plant it, it's still going to carry on with the same growth cycle.
Exactly.
It's just can't be done. You have that window, and you have to get it done from start to finish. So the best thing you can do is grow it properly. You know, keep it happy and healthy, which is easier said than done. Nobody wants an ill plant, but you know, it's just the plant will end up better if you keep it happy for its whole life cycle. So they're good for experienced growers. I mean, they're also good for new growers because they're so easy to grow. But for if you want the grow to go smoothly, then it's going to take some practice and experience. So they're better for experienced growers if you want to get the good result out of it.
Yeah. Now, and you can really do something out of autos. I mean, Bubble Hawk is always growing autos, and we've seen over at Percy some of the things that he can grow. It's not uncommon for Bubble Hawk to pull a 1 pound auto out of his tent. I mean, they can grow to monsters very, very easily if you pamper them and give them what they want. But you have to know how to do it, and you've got to get them moving early.
My buddy grew one on his acreage. I gave him some, call it Alberta Big Bud. It was bred by a guy in Lethbridge for outdoor prairie growing, and the fucker, I think it dropped like 2.5 pounds or something. Just like these fucking donkey dicks on, like there, it was amazing. Just bud,
what it needed.
whole thing everywhere, shooting up bud, covered in aphids, but you know. That's
this is the thing with autos. This thing with autos as well is you can grow them big, man. You can have good yield in autos if you put 4 in a 4x4 tent, for example, a 4 foot by 4 foot or 1.2 by 1.2 meter tent. Use one of those with 4 autos in it. You get a good yield, man. 16 ounces, like 4 ounce.
Bubble Hawk gets a pound off of 1 in a 4x4. So I mean, it's possible. It depends how you want to grow it, but I mean, that's the potential is there no matter how you want to do it. If you just do it, you know, like I said, you gotta move quick. I like the quote that was up there in chat. Dr. Bugsby equates autos to being a hot rod. They're really fast, but when something goes wrong, it goes really wrong really fast.
But are incredible given a smooth runway.
Yes.
And that's it. If you're an experienced grower, then it's going to be very easy. But at the same time, that you don't have to grow them massive because you can grow them in small pots and they'll grow smaller as well because they'll grow according to like somewhere around how big their root base is. So it's going to grow roots as much as it can, and it will detect how much space is around it, and that will decide on how big the plant grows. To some extent, it's not all just about that. But the more root space it has, the more chance it has got of growing nice and big above ground as well. So, and it works in the opposite direction. If you want to keep them small, then you can grow them in small pots and they won't go over a stupid size. So you can grow like 20 small plants instead of a couple of big ones. Sorry, Monkey.
Go ahead, Mac. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't know.
It's something TG does, right? You grow the micro grows, TG.
Yeah, I use photos though, but you can do it with autos.
I do autos in my micros.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I've done both for those.
Yeah. They both all work the same. I mean, a photo in an auto in a micro grow, if you got it set up right, you're going to have similar results.
Yeah.
American
really
one said here
dependent on-
in chat, sorry, just get that in there.
Yeah,
There are a
no
lot of
worries.
factors that can affect yield. One can fix a photo period,
Mhm.
and there's no fixing and hurt auto. And it's very true, man. It's well, with the photo period, you can
Yeah,
top it, train it, super crop it, do all this different shit with it, and you can just veg it for a little bit longer if you have problems. You don't
yeah.
get that
I'll get
option
a
with autos.
You'll get a weak auto that, 3 weeks in, you'll know it's not going to be a strong plant. You might as well just cull it because
Well,
there's no coming back.
I'd say a big con too is one thing I sort of mentioned earlier was if you don't breed your own seeds or make your own seeds, breed is a strong word, especially autos.
Mhm.
And autos are tough because male autos generally are not available on most commercial seed banks. Like there's some breeders that offer them, but generally you can't find or regular autos, I should say, not male autos, but you got to keep buying the fucking things from people
Mhm.
or have them given to you or whatever, but they got to come from somewhere. You can't just keep a mom or easily make a couple of more seeds like you do with a male and a female that you accidentally left in when you're up working up north or something. Who does that? Right? But autos, like I said, generally 99% of them are females, so there's that limitation too. So they can get expensive or limited, depending on where you are in the world. So
yeah, man. So as you've explained, if you want to get a good yield out of the autos, it's best to give them a nice happy life from start to finish. How can we do that? What's going to be the best way? You would recommend cocoa, I assume, monkey?
Well, of course, because that's what I grow in.
Mhm.
I mean, I have grown cannabis plants in other media, but 99% of what I grow is cocoa. And again, it's a form of hydro, and it's an easy way to give your auto everything it wants immediately.
Mhm.
But
Well,
it's not for everybody.
So a couple of questions there. When it comes to growing in salts, you need to change from using grow newts at some point, moving over to using bloom newts. At what point in the plant's life, what are you looking at when you're looking at the auto that makes you decide, oh, it's time to move it into
Same
bloom
exact
field?
thing, exactly the same thing that I do in photos. I mean, it's a cannabis plant.
Mhm.
Basically, I mean, you'll see it with an auto. It'll grow in vegetative anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, and then it'll start stretching. When stretching ends and I see white flowers, I switch to bloom nutrients. That's it. I
Mhm.
mean, it's this same exact thing with photos.
Yeah.
You flip the switch, everything comes up, they stretch on up, you see flowers, switch to bloom, and it works. I mean,
That's right. Yeah.
it's just keep it simple. Listen, we've always said this: keep it simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And see, it follows the same life cycle as a photo period plant does. It just does the flowering section automatically. That's why they're called autos. So you will notice there's the few weeks of veg where you have your seedling stage. You'll have a few weeks of veg, and then you'll notice the stretch coming, and that's like the regenerative stage where it just grows bigger so it can support more flower growth. And then you'll see signs of sex, either male or female, which is most likely to be feminized. So most autos will just be female automatically as well.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I use salts, but darn good and well, TG uses all organic, and I've seen some of his autos, and they're nothing to sneeze at. It can be done easily in super soil.
Even
I,
easier in super soil, right, TG?
Well, maybe I can't say because I've never grown in cocoa, but
I think that it's easier because you just plant the seed and
yeah,
you just add
yeah.
water
Oh, yeah.
after that.
From that aspect, yeah, it takes all the work out of it. Your soil is auto feeding and your flower is auto flowering. What fucking more is there to do, right?
Right.
Just
It's,
set up an auto watering system.
well, exactly. Yeah, there's definitely ways to do that too. Pretty sure we have guides, right?
Yep.
Guides.
Yeah,
But
guides.
maybe this is controversial for me to say, but from I do know cocoa, you are able to force feed it a lot quicker. Like the plant, it's not like they're lazy, but it does seem like when I watch Monkey, for example, and we're growing the same shit, his stuff gets bigger faster. And I don't discount that, which is another reason why I like photos, because it gives me time to do what I need to do with a little bit, maybe another week added on or a half a week.
Yeah.
It's really not a big difference, but with cocoa, you can really fine tune stuff. And therefore in the beginning, you can just max it out as much as you can to get them as big as you possibly can before they start going into flower mode, which is an advantage, I'll say. And in terms of flavor, like again, if you grow it right with whatever you're using, the flavor and the profile is going to be fucking good.
Mhm.
There's going to be a difference between living soil or super soil and salts, but it's a subject of preference at that point, I think, and both can be very, very good or very, very bad. So that aspect I don't think is important. But if you are interested in heavier yield, faster, and all that shit, probably cocoa would be the way to go, in my opinion, as a super soil grower. What about that? Ooh.
Very controversial. Very
Yeah,
controversial.
but again, like Mackie said, if you just want something fucking easy, just
Like Marge does, they just plant it outside, and that's where your auto watering system comes in. It rains, and then
Right.
you water your plants.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Not always when you want it to, though, but yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what you do, Marge? When you plant yours outdoors, what's your kind of technique? What you do? Just plant it into the ground? Or you have use some
No,
soil or something?
I usually put them in, I've been putting them in pots just
Alright, cool.
because, just because of there's a lot of shade in my backyard. So it allows me to sort of put it in
Move them
places.
around
I chase the
accordingly.
sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then I just try and water from rainwater when it doesn't rain on my schedule.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man, incredibly easy to do when it comes to auto flowering plants, especially outdoors. And that's one of the beautiful things. I think Ed Rosenthal said before, auto flowering plants will be like tomato plants one day, where everybody's going to have one just on their back porch, which would be cool to see, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That'd be great. Real conversation starter.
Yeah.
Well, shall we get into a little bit of the controversial topics with the auto flowers, the do's and don'ts that are out there, the bro science?
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I mean, can I start with the first one? The first one being you have to plant it in its final pot.
Oh man, I heard that one a lot. I
Mhm,
think I just
mhm.
proved on
Oh.
my current grow that that's not the case.
Yeah. This was
know.
one of the things that came out early on, March, in the early days of autos, where people would say you need to plant it in its final pot. And it's not true. I mean, you have to be careful when you transplant from one pot to another because you don't want to cause it any root stress or anything like that. But I've tried both ways with planting directly into the final pot, and then even transplanting 3 times, a small pot to a medium pot to a big pot. And it's all been fine. They've all done the same thing. As long as you don't break the tap root and shit when you're transplanting or breaking the roots. And any kind of stress is bad for autos. You got to give it as smooth life as possible.
You want to make sure that rhizosphere is in good shape, and you don't want it to go in that small plot too long or too short. If you transplant it too quickly, you're going to break the root ball. And Mackie's just said you'll break the tap root. You're screwed. Nothing's going to fix that. You wait too long, the plant gets root bound, and you could trigger flower prematurely.
And there's nothing wrong with it going into its final pot. You can do that if you wanted to. I mean, that works. But if you're growing in cocoa, for example, where you have to water every day and keep the medium wet at all times, you're just going to be wasting nutrients. Yeah, and just you don't want to.
So if you're in super soil, it's best to go into the final pot.
Yeah.
There.
That's right.
Ready, you can go at once.
But if you don't have the space as well, if you're using a 60 centimeter tent as your veg tent and then moving everything to a 1.2, if you're using 4 40-liter pots for your autos, it's not going to fit inside the 60 centimeter tent. So that's when it's a good time to put it in small pots first and then move it into a bigger pot later on.
That's a good point. With autos, because they are a finite thing, they don't get as big as you let them get. You don't want to grow one in like a fucking 50-liter pot or 100 liters because it just won't use all that medium. Or if it's super soil, then you're going to waste a lot of super. You could then just grow more, I guess.
I'll put mine in 25-liter pots when it comes to the super soil thing.
Yeah, obviously fit the pot to the.
But in cocoa, I'd go like 12 liters.
Yeah, I do 12 liters. That's my standard size, even with autos in super soil.
Yeah, 3-gallon pots, 12 liters. I guess that's what that is. Pretty much.
So I'd go from like a half a liter pot, just when it's germinating, get it started, and then when it's happy and it's got a few leaves on it, then drop it into the 12-liter pot. 12-liter air pots in cocoa. That's the shit. I swear that they grow so fast. They're so happy all the way through. Just water it every day at the right EC, right pH, and make sure you keep an eye out for when the flowering comes, because when it comes to flowering, somebody did ask there as well in the chat, and this is related to that. It's when it's just like a photoperiod plant. If you defoliate too soon, it's going to stretch like a motherfucker. So when you come to doing the lollipopping or any defoliation before it heads into the main flowering, same thing as the photo period plant, wait until you start seeing flowers form. And then you know the veg stage and the vegetative stage is over and it's flowering now. That's when you can
not just the
defoliate.
beginning, not just the beginnings of flower, nice white fluffy flowers. 'Cause now you know it's time.
Not just the hairs. You don't want it to just see hairs. You need to see the actual flowers forming. If you do it when the hairs are showing, it might be too soon, and you'll trim the bottoms off, and the plant will go into more regenerative growth and stretch like a motherfucker. And you have big internodal spaces and shit. You don't want that.
And you're going to have a nasty trim job on that one because you can have a lot of small elastic popcorn here and there all over the plant. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
I usually, as far as transplant go, I'll start all my plants in solo cups. I don't know why, just what I've done forever. And I usually just transplant the autos one time from the solo cup into the final pot.
It's the best
this last time I didn't have the tent space, so I could only move them. I moved from solo cups to 1 gallons, 1 gallons to 3 gallons. No shock, everything's fine. So yeah. Take it easy, be kind to the plants, but they can definitely take a transplant if they have to.
Yeah, that's it. As long as it's early on. Don't be doing it like mid-flower and shit like that. That's crazy talk, you know. Do it early on.
You probably could, but yeah, your plant's going to be stunted if you're doing that. But yeah, you know, just
when it heads into the flowering stage, it's like the roots stop growing as well. So that's it. That the plant decides then this is how much space I've got to work with. So let's try and take it easy above ground, you know.
Yeah. And then let's go to the next bro science thing. You cannot top an autoflower. You should not top an auto.
Crazy talk. You have to top autos.
I believe it because I'm mainline autos, and that's 3 toppings.
But you just treat it like a cannabis plant, isn't it? That's how I look at things. When it gets to the 3rd, 4th node, top it. It's a cannabis plant, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid of shocking the plant, stunning it, making it go into flower prematurely. But again, if the plant is happy, it can definitely take the toppings, it can take the training, it can do anything you want to. It's a cannabis plant. The warning I give you is that it have to move quickly because you've only got 4 weeks to get the stuff done. And after that, you don't know what's going to happen.
And I would say as well, if you're growing outdoors, it's not necessarily the only reason why I think when you're growing it indoors, you should top them is because you can just get better training. And
more light inside of the plant, better ventilation, all that good stuff happens when you top the plant. It opens it up, makes it a little easier to deal with.
That's it. But outdoors, just let nature do its thing, man.
But yeah, I'll full on mainline to cannabis autoflowers, and they do just fine if you do it fast enough. They're tough. They can actually do whatever you want them to. So that's definitely bro science.
What other bro sciences do we have? You can't train them, you know. You can. You just
I mean, you can train them all you want for sure. I mean, LST, high stress training, low stress training, super cropping, all that stuff. They'll do it. It's a cannabis plant.
When flowering starts, then stop doing any of that shit. You just want to be doing this in the veg stage, just like you would do with a photo period plant. You know, it's the same thing. Just auto flowering begins. The flowering stage begins automatically without you having to change the light cycle. That's the only difference. That's the only thing I do different really with autos than I do for photos. I'll do everything the same.
Pretty much.
What about
I mean, the old adage that autoflowers are always going to be less potent, you know, that's not as strong cannabis.
As I was just gonna say, yeah. What do you guys think about that?
No, I think it's fine, man. You have people say that growing feminized seeds is weaker than photo period, regular seeds, and I just don't believe any of that shit. I've grown some autos that were like covered in a layer of glass. It was so frosty. And
that's some of that hanging in the tent right now. Yeah.
You know, some of them, maybe they've even been better than some of my photo period plants, man. Look, autos are quality. They'll give you some good, strong ass, tasty ass weed, especially if you get good genetics. What were you saying, TG?
Yeah. Nothing.
That's the question. I was kind of curious what your opinion was.
Yeah, about the potency.
Yeah, potency.
Yeah. Again, like with all these things that like it seems more potent, it looked more potent. Those are all great, but those are just kind of qualitative descriptions. I need to see some numbers. And I have had my one auto tested, which means absolutely nothing in any respect, but it was around 14 or 15%, which isn't bad, isn't huge. But I fully believe that they, maybe they're not up in the bullshit 39%.
I think Dutch Passion
jeez.
actually have a strain which they claim is the highest THC in autoflower, and it goes up to 28%.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. I'm like, the ruderalis-ness of the autos has been all but obliterated in terms of the shitty taste and the lack of vigor, kind of like, because they get all small and they only ever get like 3 leaves, kind of. That's there's a lot of good autos, and I'm sure it's not like only that genetic that does auto. I'm sure there's other stuff over the years been found and incorporated into things, and we've had so much time now to elaborate these genetics that
millions of plants grown.
There's some fucking fire out there, like I've grown Seedsman strawberry cheese 1 year, and it produced like, it was like a fucking, just, I don't know, like one of those Cato 9-tail, something. It just had big donkey dick fucking things everywhere, and it was so much. It was so resinous, so flavorful. It got me like it feeling really good. Like, it was great medicine. Everything about it was awesome. So yeah. I fully
good
believe.
shit, man. It really is just a case of which one do you prefer personally now. You know.
Yeah, you got to find good ones for sure.
You get the right strain, you get the right genetics. Like Auto Colorado Cookies from Dutch Passion is one of my favorites, man. That's a quality auto strain. Highly recommend.
Eventually, I'll grow that one eventually, because you've raved about it so much.
I do have a question for you guys though about genetics and lineage and stuff. So autos, generally they're versions of something, right? You have Blueberry OG auto, you have Northern Lights auto, you have fucking OG Kush auto, right? OG Kush and like any strain, really, they don't exist as autos. They never will. They never have. What we know, what is the archetype, the standard for OG Kush, the true OG Kush is not an auto.
Yeah.
So the auto version of said OG Kush, to me, it can never be OG Kush. And I don't know how. I imagine with a lot of work, you could get it pretty close. But to me, that's why photos actually are my favorite, because they are the true expression of most. If something starts
allegedly
yeah, I mean,
they all differ from breeder to breeder and shit, but I know what you mean, and I agree completely, man.
Yeah,
like once it's had the ruderalis added to it, it's not going to be white widow.
100%. The stuff that originated like Colombia, that shit, or Thailand, the original landrace, like Afghanistan, those weren't autos, and that's where most shit comes from. And so when you get the auto in
it's
there,
gonna be close, but it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, and again, I'm like, when I'm growing something called Northern Lights auto, I'm just like, I don't like calling it, because like Northern Lights is such a varied strain itself, and just to call something Northern Lights is not good at this point in the game. Maybe back in the 80s when Seattle Grey.
Maybe that's like it's a good seed brand. You can do a good seed bank. Just call it something like, and it's like something like Northern Lights, something like White Widow,
yeah,
something
Fast
like
Buds.
Blue Cheese.
Where did Fast Buds get all? Like, no offense to Fast Buds, I've never grown them, so I no experience with them. But they have a lot of stuff that exists elsewhere that is not auto, and then all of a sudden, so I don't know. It's just autos are strength.
Yeah.
All that aside, they're really good if you find good ones, just like any cut, right?
But they can be very versatile, very diverse plants, man.
From a genetics purist kind of point of view, they're like, I don't know.
But I'd highly recommend it, man, and for new growers too. If you want a
it has nothing to do with growing.
Super soil, plant an auto in it, and you could just water it for 12 weeks, and it will be harvested sometime around then when it's done. And that's another bro science which we can quickly cover as well. Though is autoflowers don't get orange trichomes, but I think it's more just the case that it takes longer. The orange trichomes come from just THC degrading. It's going to happen at some point.
Just don't be so impatient and cut your fucking plant early.
You know what I'm saying? And never listen to the breeder. And that matters for photo period plants too. The breeder's going to say it flowered in 8 weeks. And it's like, no, it's probably going to be about 10 or maybe even 12. It's done when it's done. There's too many things that need to be taken into account.
Lots of variables. Yeah.
I've got 2 of them in the tent right now that are on week 14, and they're just not quite right yet. So, you just got to wait.
Yeah, man. But definitely, I mean, if you haven't grown at auto, give it a shot, because they're great space fillers as well. So you can have one in a small pot just sitting in the corner of the tent growing, and then you can get variety. Say you've got 4 nice size photo period plants of one strain, but you got some space at the back, then just put like 4 or 5 3-liter pots with a couple of autos in there. You might get a ½ ounce to an ounce of like White Widow, Northern Lights, blue cheese, just different strains, whatever you want it to be. You know, and they take no extra work. You know, just drop some water in it. It's fine, man. Very easy to do, very easy to grow, and they're good plants nowadays. They're not crap like they used to be, and they used to be really shit. But that was early days, man. But now they're quality. On the same par as photo period plants, I would say. But you know, that's my opinion. Some people might disagree.
Yeah, the only thing about autos, stress it over and over and over, is keep them happy, keep them going.
You
know, there's no second chances. So, but if you can keep them happy, you're going to be happy.
Have a certain amount of time to get it done. Make sure that it's done nicely. So we'll move on to some. I mean, is there anything else there to add about autos? Anything to add?
I
Anybody?
don't think of any more bro science about autos at the negative stuff that people throw at you, and I can't really think of anything else. You know,
don't pay for
TG,
overhyped beans. Don't pay for overhyped beans. Hint, hint. I don't know if you know.
I know that some of the banks you're talking about. Yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't.
Special drop. Be on the site. Yeah.
There's lots of good
limited.
If that's what you do, sure. But like, I don't know. They only get this fucking big. They're small, right? Anyway, I like them. Don't get me wrong.
So we got a question here from Clist. What's up, Clist? Dear Hot and Homegrown, long time listener and supporter. I wonder, do you guys ever reuse mason jars without cleaning them, or do you clean them thoroughly between harvests? I mean, I don't clean mine. No, just let it build up over time.
Cleaning.
You know what I mean? Clean out the THC. That's not cleaning it. That's making it dirtier. Keep that shit in there.
I mean, if I'm just putting like dried flour from an old jar into like new flour into an old jar, then who cares?
As
long as you don't have like bud rot in there or something, then I think it's totally fine.
Or something gross or whatever. Yeah.
I actually put them through the dishwasher, clean them all out, get them fresh.
Holy.
Well, look at you go.
I just look. I've done it before, where I've had 2 or 3 grows, and they start kind of getting crusty after a while.
That's not crust. That's like cleaning the fucking barbecue grill.
Like
that is.
I understand it. I
Just
get
layer.
it. And I look at it and think like, okay, Spartan Grown said I could take alcohol and dissolve all this and you know make RSO with it or whatever. I'm going like, nah, clean it.
Sacrilege.
I'd probably say the same thing, actually, Monkey.
Yeah.
What?
Like, nah,
to go.
dishwasher,
come on.
done.
Come on. You know, I know I'm all for like maximizing the plant as much as possible, but there's a limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Pretty much clean them if you want to, man. It's completely up to you. But
Yeah, if they're dirty and full of shit, clean them. But
Do whatever makes you happy, man. That's
use
what
your
I would
own
say.
discretion.
Clean for 8 years, you know. I bet.
But there was a question a while back on a show that somebody wanted to know how to get the smell out of the jar so it wouldn't affect their new weed. So in that case, run them through the dishwasher.
Clean them. Yeah.
Clean
Completely up to you.
Yeah, then clean them. Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, man. It's just one of those things, completely up to you. But
clean them.
I don't clean mine. But Monkey and Marge do. TG doesn't. It's each to their own, man. Do your thing, bro. Then we have Woody. Woody has got a question. Well, why can't I wear white after Labor Day? What sort of fine is there? Are people in the UK and other parts of the world also suppressed by this law? Is it a law?
I checked the other day. It's after Labor Day now, right? So I did put on white and it worked and I walked outside. So Woody, you can wear
and
white
people didn't
Labor
look
Day.
at you like you.
No,
dickhead.
it's fine.
What is Labor Day, all right?
Labor Day.
I do think
first
there was a
weekend-
time. Yeah, you're right, Monkey. The first weekend in September. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that first long weekend. But I do think there was a saying for a long time that you shouldn't wear white after Labor Day. Maybe that was more of a North American thing. But like everything else in the world, people are turning the rules on their head and saying, fuck it, do whatever the hell you want.
Well,
Wear that white.
White was considered a summer color, and then you know seasons change. But I always wondered about that because in the deep South, seasons don't change here until we get to November. You know, so why can't I wear white? It's still hot.
You can. You can.
That's what I said. I found that
Do it.
out. Do it.
Yes. Just
Now,
do
I'm one
it.
of those kind of people who, because of that stupid saying, I would only wear white after Labor Day.
There you go.
Well, I guess brides couldn't wear white if that was true either. So there you go.
Right.
Phil asks, how did you, PGR/HOHG moderators, all pick your avatars, names, and characters? Do you want to go into that, anybody?
Sure, I could go first.
Oh, yeah, where did you
It's
get
pretty
yours
easy.
from, Marge?
Uh,
How did you
You
get
know
your name?
Let me just sit up here for a second and get comfortable because it really
Long
came
story.
down to a lot of thought. And
It's a long story.
spent some agonizing time over my computer and like brainstormed and worked with a panel of people and came up with the name Marge and a picture of me with a weed leaf behind it. And yeah, there's a lot
Genius,
of
I
blood,
say.
sweat, and tears.
Genius.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Must have taken
Yeah.
years of planning. It's crazy.
It did actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Your eyes actually look like that though. That's
Well, yeah, on a good day.
yeah.
Depends on how much weed I've had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine is from Machiavelli. Well, not necessarily the Machiavelli, the Prince Machiavelli, but Tupac, man. I'm a big Tupac fan. All right, everybody. I don't know if you all realize that, but I think Tupac
Oh.
is the fucking man. And I pretty much made my name a long time ago as Mackie, because Machiavelli. Yeah.
Nice.
Blows through your body like a 12-gauge shot. You
There you go.
know? But CG, what's yours from, man?
I ran a contest on Twitter about this for free seeds a while back. You should have fucking been a part of that.
I don't go on Twitter, bro. I'll be over there,
you.
there more now when Elon's taken over.
Yeah, no, I'm talking to
Everybody
Gil
else.
and Russ this damn question, you know.
Yeah. Maybe that's why
Um,
he's doing it, because he knows the answer to this one.
Yeah. Well, no, my name. There's a band called Temple of the Dog, and I like them and a lot. And when I used to play Diablo and basically be online and like,
Sorry, Rob Champ, that he knew what words came after what I said there. Nice. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, from the Tupac song. What a tune, man.
honestly, yeah.
Two of
Yeah, no.
America's Most Wanted. What a tune, everybody.
No, I just had my name
Hungry.
My name is Temple of the Dog on Diablo mostly, but again elsewhere. And since then, I'm just Temple whatever. So whatever I'm doing, whatever website it might be. If it was a poker website, it'd be like Temple Royal Flush or some fucking shit like that.
Temple Poker.
Yeah. And so I came here to Percy's and I was like, oh, I grow. Therefore, I'm Cremple Grower. And the symbol is like it's the hermeticism shit, as above so below. And I think it's a good representation in all aspects of its multitude of meanings for the cannabis, from the deep philosophicalness of the using it as a sacrament type shit, and just simply, if the roots are shitty, the top will be shitty. That's kind of like what I always think about when I see it. So as above, so below, squared circle type shit. And I like the symbolism. It's easy to put on a shirt. Well, how about that?
What you say, Monkey? Do you want to go into yours?
Sure. When I first started this whole adventure in cannabis, I needed some way to log on to different websites when I was joining or looking around and stuff like that. So I was inspired by my daughter. My daughter was a very curious one, and I called her T-Monk. T meaning petite, just a short version, T-Monk. Because when she wanted to learn something, I could always watch her. She'd be down, that little 2-year-old, 3-year-old height down there looking around you as you're doing something there. She'd watch how you turn that lock so she could do it later. So I figured out that that's how I was learning to grow cannabis, by watching everybody else. So monkey see, monkey do.
I like that.
A quick one from Fweech there. He says, question for Mackie. Are you going to get back into growing eventually? Of course, bro. I fucking love this shit, man. I love growing weed. It's one of my favorite hobbies. And I really fucking enjoy doing it, regardless of how much I smoke or don't smoke or whatever, man. I love growing weed. It's a beautiful plant. I like the whole process. I enjoy everything about it, man. I love growing weed, and I do hope to get back into it eventually, and hopefully not too long. But I'm going to move house and shit first, so that's just something that's going to get done after Christmas into the new year, possibly. So it's definitely not over. I love this shit too much, but I will be back. I will be back. Don't worry.
What are you gonna grow first, do you think? That was a good question.
Oh man, fucking
Oh, jeez, that's
maybe
That'd
lemon
one
tree.
guess.
No, seriously, man, because my next project, what I want to do next is I have 4 lemon tree seeds, and I want to grow the 4 out and take a cut, make a mom, self it, get some fucking seeds of it, and have some lemon tree seeds, man. Because I do very much enjoy that strain.
That's a good idea.
Might be better to clone it and then reverse one and then cross the two. You'll end up with a little bit better vigor.
But
And something back.
if people have visited the forum over the last few days, I've got a thread up there with a graph showing my electricity usage from when I've stopped growing
Yes,
versus
man.
now.
That's crazy.
And it's like 3 times the amount of energy use that has been reduced. Like it was like, say, 250 kilowatt hours. That's what it is now. And it was 750, nearly 800 kilowatt hours when I was growing, because I had the 2 tents up, 2 1 meter
There's
tents.
nothing else in the house's awning, so
Just the grow tents, man.
I'd be the same. I'd be
The whole
the same.
house was being heated by the grow tent.
But it's like, and that was fine back then. I mean, I estimated that it was like £5 a day for me to grow, and that's fine. When you're smoking a Q a day and only spending £5 a day growing, it's fucking cheap, man. It's cheap. But now, after all the electricity prices changing in the UK, it's like doing the maths. It's going to cost me about £500 a month extra to grow if I put both
That's a
tents back
lot.
up again.
It's
Yeah,
got to be a better way,
Crazy.
man. You're gonna have to
Mhm.
reassess your assembly here.
Yeah, man.
Right.
it's crazy amount of money now. That the electricity bills will go up double of what they
You'll
are
have
now.
to
At
do
least
cyclic
double.
grows, man.
Mhm.
Make a big grow and then work on that for a while, and then
Outdoors or something.
take a break or something like that between your
Yeah.
grows.
And we
That's
also
how
have
you
something
yield.
that relates there from Sparky. Said, "What the fuck is going on with the UK government, mate? They don't even know what the fuck is going on with the UK government. So I ain't got a fucking clue what's going on with them either, man. Pretty much, it's a farce. It's falling apart. The pound's gonna collapse. We're all fucked here in the UK. Send food,
Send weed, it sounds like.
yeah, that too.
Minister.
Shit. But we're Britain, we're the UK. We go through all sorts of turmoil and still come out stronger. The old saying goes, "Keep calm and carry on," and that's exactly what we're gonna do, and we'll be okay soon enough. We'll get over it. That's how we roll.
And tell you what, it sounds like that catchphrase is made there to tame the population.
I think
Just
so.
Keep calm.
I
Everybody
think-
keep calm.
Indeed, keep calm and carry on. Like, just shut the fuck up, stop bitching.
Leave me alone.
A couple more, which we'll quickly get to, because it just hit 420, just about to hit 420. The smoky shit if
yeah.
you're doing that.
Oh, yeah, I just did. I didn't even
Drop
realize.
bag,
it's
man.
420.
Another one from Sparky says, "What do panel members think about harvesting a plant that is beyond the breeder's max flowering time, based on emergence of pistils, but is still not showing any hint of amber trichomes from top to bottom, with all trichomes being milky, to cut or not to cut?" Well, we mentioned that briefly earlier. Don't listen to the breeder's flowering times. That's just a guideline. It can be 2 weeks easily either way. And some strains might not show the amber trichomes for a while. The THC doesn't degrade too quickly. But as long as it's all milky, that means that it's all mature, and you should be good to chop at that point. What do you all have to say about that?
I would tend to agree with that. And I think I remember Frenchie saying before that amber trichomes doesn't necessarily dictate plant maturity. And further to that, Swami's advice was to just ask the plant, which
Yeah.
probably doesn't answer his question very well, but
I kind of get it though. After you've grown
Yeah.
a while,
Yeah.
I kind of get it. And
Yeah.
I'm to that point right now with one in the tent where I was kind of looking at today. I'm going like, you're about ready, aren't you?
Yeah.
right, you were asking the
And
plant.
it's like, no.
I was I mean, the trichomes are all cloudy. There's no amber,
Right.
but I keep looking at it going like, you've been here a long time. I think you're ready, aren't you?
Right.
There's other signs too, like senescence in the leaves and just how
Mhm.
much it's
Yeah.
drinking and just little nuances and stuff, which of course doesn't come until you get
Yeah.
experience growing it, especially if it's the same strain over and over again.
Smell will
Um,
change even toward the end there when
but-
it's right.
yeah, what you're talking about there is very subjective, and you know, some people like to cut it even earlier. What the thing with me isn't so much I guess maturity of the TH. Like there is a peak where THC production kind of starts going down, and then it doesn't produce as much, and then it tips into the degradational phase, I guess, later on a bit. But that does take a little longer than probably most people think. But bulking up of the flower, you know, you do gain a hell of a lot of weight in the last two weeks, even the last week, I would say. It's amazing. And so that's a tough one to judge. When does it stop bulking up? Like 2 days since it's been this big, is it done? I don't know. But and again, like the guy said, that's about like just kind of asking the plant in the stupidest sense of that. But yeah, trichome maturity is a, I don't know, flimsy subject, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like
Well, it's like you said, it's nuanced.
Yeah, it is.
Each
The one in
plant
the
is
tent,
different.
I mean, it's 4.5 weeks over the recommended flowering time, but it's just not ready yet. It's one of those things. That
Yeah.
particular pheno, it's going to take a little longer.
I will ask the plant. Okay. Yeah, let us know.
All you can do, really. I mean,
yeah, but yeah.
So then we have one more we'll quickly touch on here is taking a microscope photo of where the pistils emerge the right way for checking trichome maturity. In other words, how does one know you are looking at the trichomes on the bud and not on the sugar leaves, since mature buds are surrounded in sugar leaves and high magnification makes it difficult. They shouldn't really be surrounded too much in sugar leaves, right? I mean, especially when the buds are fully grown, unless you've been feeding too much nitrogen, there won't be too many leaves around the buds there. So, you know, just make sure that the tip of the camera is on the buds, and that's where you want to, like the top of the buds as well, or around the middle, not exactly the top, because that might degrade a little quicker, but definitely not on the leaves of the plants. And you don't just want to check one spot either. Check numerous spots around the plant. What are you saying,
I
TG?
performed sacrilege on it. I actually removed like 2 bracts off the plant and bring them to a desk and then use the stand that TG is very familiar with for the microscope, so I can zoom in and get really clear pictures of the trichomes.
That's not a bad idea. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I mean 2 bracts that's nothing.
It's something that you don't have like fucking botrytis in your tent lurking around like I do right now. So it can affect the wound.
Hopefully I don't.
That's not a bad idea, yeah, to check. If you can do it safely and everything.
But now that you mentioned that, that's something else that I always do before I cut them, is I always go ahead and wipe the clippers down with alcohol, just to be sure. You know, if I'm going to make a wound, I want to make sure it's a clean wound.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at enough, leaves do look a fair bit different than the bracts do. Leaves tend to be like, you can see the middle veins and then the sub veins, or the whatever coming off the middle vein of the leaf. And then the serrations on the generally they're not as heavily you know, don't have as much resin on them. Some strains you get a fuckload everywhere, even on the fans. But yeah, you kind of just got to get an eye, I would say. And obviously, like, kind of you can look here and look there, and you know, do your best to point it at the right spot, I would say. I get right in there, you know. I dust the front of my microscope with ice soda and, you know, make sure there's no shit on it and stuff. And then I actually, a lot of the time, will touch the actual bud, sacrificing a few resin glands, but touching it, you get a little bit more stability, and then you can zoom in and then see, you know, assuming you're pointing at the right spot. But again, then you can introduce foreign shit to doing that, so it's best not to touch them if you can help it, but I don't give a fuck.
So no, you might not even have to do all of that anyway. I mean, after a while, you get the senescence on the plant. When it starts to look like it's going to the end of its life, the buds will look mature. It will smell different. You know, it will smell like it's ready to come down. Yeah, and it will come with experience and practice, where after you've done a few harvests, you know what it looks like when a plant's getting ready to be taken down.
Yeah, I was used the example of humans, you know, and it's like when old people get really old, they stop moving so much. They only eat like a little bit of like.
They smell different.
Yeah, you start smelling different, I guess, and eventually they're you know, and it's not just old people, but anything that's old, things just stop working, and then they just die. Plants do that exact thing. So you want to get it before that happens, but you know, keep them in a home for a little while, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
That's right.
The
Let them do
plants are
crosswords
old
and shit.
people.
No offense to old people. I like old
Sudoku.
people. Old people are awesome. But yeah, they
Man,
just
so
gotta again read the plant, ask the plant, ask the plant.
ask the plants,
Swami, are you
man.
Ask
ready
the
to go
plant.
yet?
Hey,
Are you ready to die, plant?
And with some growers, it
No.
depends on what's left in the jar as to how long that this plant's
Please.
gonna live.
Yeah, that's right. I ran out, so you're gonna die now.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. So there we go. That's all the questions, and that's everything we have to say about auto-flowering plants, really. If you have any suggestions, anybody, about what you want to hear us do on next week's Grow Guides, well, not next week because it's Halloween special next week, but the week after that, any suggestions of what you think we have covered and what we haven't covered so far, if there's anything you want to add. I mean, we'll read out this list quickly of what we have covered so far, because I went through this week. We've had a
Be
planning your
easier to
first
read out what
cannabis
we
grow.
haven't covered, man.
We've had
covered
a
so much.
planning your first cannabis grow, equipment you need for growing cannabis at home, best medium for growing cannabis, what nutrients to use for growing cannabis, where to buy cannabis seeds and cuttings, how to germinate cannabis seeds and plant cuttings, the vegetative stage of growth, the early flowering stage, the late flowering stage, harvesting, then trying and curing, how to make hashish from buds and tip leaf, how to make cannabis edibles easily at home, guerrilla growing, common cannabis plant problems, killing bugs, cannabis concentrates, pH and EC, temperature and humidity, topping cannabis, low stress training for cannabis plants, what is scrogging cannabis plants, hermaphrodite cannabis plants, how to avoid bud rot, mother plants and taking cuttings, how to make cannabis seeds, regs, autos and fems, how to keep a grow room cool in summertime, what makes good weed, avoid making these mistakes when growing cannabis, terminology and slang, terpenes and what they do and what they taste like, pros and cons of growing cannabis, FAQ for cannabis growers, deep dive into hydroponics, digging deep into soil, making compost for cannabis plants, reducing energy bills when growing cannabis, how to grow cannabis perpetually, best books for growing cannabis, and today's episode about growing autos. That's 40 grow guides now. 40. So
Where to next, man?
covered a lot
I
of
have
shit.
no
You know,
idea.
what the fuck do we talk about next? We need ideas from you guys out there, the listeners, what you want us to talk about. Have a mushroom
Is
show.
Die Hard a Christmas
Mm.
movie?
You know the answer to that question.
I know
Yeah.
we found it last week.
No, that was just one part of the argument in your favor, Monkey. That's all.
That's all we need, man.
Mhm.
Christmas movies come out at Christmas.
No, and sometimes in July.
Yeah, once.
Hey, shit. Yeah, maybe an episode on aliens. That would be cool. Companion plants. Nice idea there, Zesty. Nice idea. But drop it in the thread over on Percy's in the high and homegrown section if you have suggestions on what you want us to cover next week. That'd be cool if we can keep them all in one place. But we can't do aliens, Phil. That's for after party sessions, bro. You know what I'm saying? But yes, speaking of that, I think we're done. Are we all done? Anything else to add? Anything to cover?
Holy fuck, that's a lot of fucking shit.
You know what I'm saying, bro?
That was
Right.
good.
Nice. So let's go to the outro. Let's do it. So there we go, everybody. That was this week's Grow Guides. If you have any questions or any suggestions which you'd like to share with us, then head over to percysgrowroom.com, sign up and start a thread or message us. It's absolutely free and it would be awesome to see you over there. You can also contact us on social networks like Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and you can even email us at highonhomegrown@gmail.com. So any suggestions you have for Grow Guides episodes or any news stories that you'd like to share with us for us to report on next week's show, then just send them to any one of those networks or email us and we'll get it covered on the next show. This week's show is going to be a Halloween special as well. So if you're free on Sunday at 9 o'clock UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific, then come and join us over on youtube.com/highandhomegrown for the Halloween special where we tell some spooky stories, things like that. So have a good weekend, everybody. I hope to see you there at the live show. But if not, we'll catch you on Monday where we'll release the scary stories and the Halloween special then. So next week, Monday, we'll have the scary stories and stuff. And on Wednesday and Friday, there'll be 2 different interviews that will be released next week. So stay tuned for those. It's been a pleasure as usual, everybody. Thank you for downloading the show. Thank you for listening. And I hope you can share this episode with a friend who might find the information interesting. But for now, have a good weekend, everybody. Stay high, stay safe. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.